Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Here's Eddie Frederick.
Welcome to Caribbean Perspective. So glad you can join us. The story that takes the lead in today's edition for Tuesday, 18th June 2024, and brought to you in association with our friends at Antillean Group. A call to do more to finance Africa-Caribbean business ventures. Details after this important message.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all, perils big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so glad to see. Peace of mind, that's our service guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
Antillean Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
Welcome back.
Afrexim Bank wants the financial sector in Barbados and the Caribbean to be mobilized more to help finance business opportunities between Africa and the Caribbean region. Acting Chief Operations Officer at the bank's CARICOM office, Okochukwu Ihejerika, says small and medium-sized enterprises have a role to play. He says Afrexim Bank has been working with its development bank partners in the Caribbean to ensure that interventions reach SMEs that require funding. Mr. Ihejerika has shared how the bank's CARICOM office has rendered assistance since opening in Barbados.
In Africa, like our minimum threshold is $5 million for transactions. But in the Caribbean, if you put in $5 million as your minimum, you find out that a lot of the companies will fall below that. So that means we need to create programs targeting SMEs. And we have to do that through investment finance institutions. And we're able to create programs that are definite, that can touch some of those SMEs. And that's where we begin to see impact of our intervention. The branch was opened last year. The board graciously approved an initial limit size of $1.5 billion for us to start doing eligible transactions. And I can tell you today that the branch, within a space of 10 months, we're considering a pipeline of over $2.4 billion. So that's way above that initial limit. And that shows that indeed there are opportunities.
Antigua and Barbuda recently established diplomatic relations with the state of Palestine, 13 years after recognizing it as a state. Foreign Affairs Minister E.P. Chet Green signed the agreement in New York on Friday last. ABS's Garfield Burford reports.
A highly significant diplomatic development unfolding in New York on Friday. Foreign Affairs Minister Honorable E.P. Chet Green, together with this country's top diplomat in Washington, D.C., Sir Ronald Sanders, fulfilling a commitment made earlier this year.
What we do today is to join with other nations, provide leadership to some, where the issue of the two-state solution is concerned. Antigua and Barbuda has over the years had relations with Israel. But we realized that a meaningful two-state solution can't be with a relationship with one. It has to be a recognition of both parties.
In 2011, Antigua and Barbuda recognized Palestine as a state. On Friday, the country went further, establishing formal diplomatic relations. Its significance was not lost on Palestine's ambassador with ministerial rank, Dr. Riyad Mansour.
We have 4 countries that during the course of the last month and a half, from the Caribbean nations that announced the recognition of the state of Palestine. And in fact, now all of the countries, the 14 of them from CARICOM, have recognized the state of Palestine. That was historic, that was important. It opened the door for the wave of recognitions that followed in Europe, led by Spain.
Both officials reaffirmed their country's adherence and commitment to the principles and purposes enshrined in the Charter of the United Nations and the provisions of international law, such as the promotion of international peace and security. It comes at a time when there is again raging global debate about the two-state solution as Israel pounds the Gaza Strip in retaliation for the attacks by Hamas in October last year. Tens of thousands of Palestinians have reportedly been killed, and there is a grave humanitarian crisis there. Sir Ronald Sanders writes in his syndicated column that the establishment of formal diplomatic relations underscores the influence small states can exert in the international arena, championing justice and equality. He also says, quote, leaders like Prime Minister Honorable Gaston Brown exemplify the courage needed to steer these critical decisions, demonstrating that small states can indeed play a significant role in addressing global issues, end quote. This agreement will be formally transmitted to the Secretary General of the United Nations.
Over in St. Kitts, where the socio-economic and political commentator Dwyer Astafan contends that the lawsuits filed by MSR Media are not the elements damaging the St. Kitts and Nevis Citizenship by Investment Program. Glenn Bart of SKN Newsline reports.
Astafan believes that the situation of the CBI program comes as a result of several bad decisions and actions taken over the years that ultimately feeds into the challenges the program faces today.
It is because of this failure by successive administrations to marshal the money and manage the industry right that the CBI and our people have been placed in jeopardy. It's not the MSR lawsuits. And they talk about institutions and the economy tanking because of these lawsuits is scaremongering at its worst. And what is even worse is some of this talk is coming from people who have contributed to the problem. And with the Drew administration, as a result of its oft-repeated commitment to cleaning up the industry, introducing stricter measures than ever before, and properly so, I might say, there has been a reduction in applications. Their action did not and will not kill us. Rather, this is a period of change, transformation that we are going through. And with time, CBI can and will rise again.
Understanding the nature of the problem and who contributed to the CBI challenges are important, according to Astafan, as he noted that citizens and residents also have a role to play in the monitoring of public officials. Glenn Bart reporting for SK Newsline.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick in association with our friends at
Antillian Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
St. Lucia's Investment Minister, Dr. Ernest Hilaire, has defended the country's Citizenship by Investment CIP program. In a speech broadcast on Wednesday evening, he addressed the allegations of corruption surrounding the CIP in the MSR Media RICO civil lawsuit, setting the record straight and defending the integrity of the program. According to Dr. Hilaire, the allegations are baseless and malicious. Zane Romulus of the DBS News World filed this report.
In his statement, Dr. Ernest Hilaire addressed some of the questions related to corruption allegations made by the CEO of MSR Media, Philip Martinez, in the RICO lawsuit and in two recent interviews. The CEO of the Citizenship by Investment Unit, Mr. McLeod Emmanuel, is a co-defendant in the lawsuit. Martinez has indicated that Dr. Hilaire, initially named as a co-conspirator, will be made a co-defendant. Dr. Hilaire, however, has emphasized that St. Lucia has no dealings with MSR Media. He maintains that MSR's lawsuit filed in the U.S. courts is part of a bigger plan to damage the country, supported by the opposition United Workers' Party.
It is instructive that Mr. Martinez has included the names of the two former prime ministers of St. Kitts, but did not include the name of Alan Chasney, who brought Galaxy to St. Lucia, and under whose government Galaxy started selling shares. So allow me to remind you that Caribbean Galaxy was brought into St. Lucia by Alan Chasney and his government in 2018.
The investment minister also mentioned the visit of the head of the Citizenship by Investment Unit to Washington to meet with the CEO of MSR Media. The minister indicated that the legal team will challenge the inclusion of Emmanuel's name in the lawsuit in the U.S. courts and that he will also fight to clear his name.
What Mr. Emmanuel did not say in his press statement is that he was approached by Mr. Mark Maraj, the lawyer for Alan Chasney, who convinced him that he should meet with Mr. Martinez, and this would assist in having his name removed from the lawsuit. Mr. Emmanuel, being concerned that he was named in the lawsuit, went to have this meeting. Mr. Maraj facilitated the initial Zoom meeting and then arranged a meeting between Mr. Martinez and Mr. Emmanuel in Washington. Would you believe? Mr. Maraj also telephoned Mr. Thaddeus Antoine to suggest that he too should travel to Washington to meet Mr. Martinez and his lawyers to ensure his name would not be added to the filing. Mr. Antoine did not oblige. Mr. Maraj makes it very clear that they do not really want Mr. Antoine, Mr. Emmanuel, or Mr. Jeffrey Dooley, but rather it's all about Ernest Hilaire.
Dr. Hilaire sought to explain Galaxy's present dealings with the country. He disputes allegations by MSR Media that the country had approved thousands of citizenship applications. He revealed that from July 2021 to March 2024, the Citizenship by Investment Unit approved a total of 2,047 applications, of which 1,367 were for Galaxy.
When the SLP administration came into office in July 2021, there was no construction work at the site. The only structure which existed was a residential building for more than 200 Chinese workers. In a meeting with Caribbean Galaxy in November 2021, Galaxy was informed that as they are holding money in an escrow account in Hong Kong, they are required by law to construct the resort. We insisted that the resort must be built. Galaxy agreed that once they finished selling shares for their project in St. Kitts, they would move their operations to St. Lucia to commence the resort development. Construction on the resort began in early 2023 at the behest of the SLP administration. The project is presently ongoing with 3 local contractors and employment of over 300 St. Lucian citizens.
Regarding the CIP's due diligence process, the investment minister stated that this process is rigorous. Since 2021, he says St. Lucia has taken further action to strengthen its capabilities. The minister also confirmed the existence of an escrow account held by Galaxy in China. However, he says this was discovered after the Labour administration took office in July 21. He blames the former UWP administration for changing the regulations for escrow accounts to be held jointly and in the country.
When our government came in, we requested statements of the escrow account of Caribbean Galaxy, and we ensured that these statements are reviewed by the CIP unit monthly. They monitor the deposits into the escrow account to ensure the prescribed minimum investment amount of $200,000 is deposited into the account for every approved application.
The Minister for Investment anticipates that the results of an independent audit of the CIP, which will be conducted by an international firm, will provide greater accountability.
This is the ideal time to engage an international audit firm to immediately commence an audit and review of how the unit has operated since it was established in 2016.
According to Dr. Hilaire, the allegations made by MSR Media are unfounded and could destabilize the CIP industry, impact existing visa-free entry and relations with correspondent banks. He urged the United Workers' Party not to support what he believes is an attempt to destroy businesses and livelihoods. Additionally, he called on citizens to work together to prevent this from happening. For the DBS Newsworld, I am Zane Romulus.
Fathers are being told that they have been given the divine role by God to head the household and to the responsibility of nurturing their children in the ways of the Lord. That was the Father's Day message from Senator Reverend Canon Dr. John Rogers, the rector and rural dean of the St. John's Deanery in Barbados, who was speaking at the St. George Parish Church. Reverend Rogers also chided the fathers who failed to fulfill their roles, noting that this is contributing to the many behavioral problems exhibited by children.
I dare say that much of the problems we have in our society stem from fathers not fulfilling their roles. Mothers too, so let me just get that out before I get in trouble. But fathers have been given a divine responsibility. God chose us. And he chose us for a particular reason. And I dare say that much of them may be able to provide all the material things, but children need much more than that. Children need spiritual grounding. Just like that little insignificant mustard seed. They are planted, but they must be nurtured in the way of God so that they grow into what God has called them to be. We cannot do that if as fathers in this world we are not grounded in what God has called us to be. If we are not even seeking to learn what He expects of us in this world.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel for daily regional news and more, in association with our friends at Antillian Group.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all perils, big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so clear to see. Peace of mind, that's a service guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
Antillian Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.